Hello and welcome to Willcox's Wacky Experiments episode 4. This is the penultimate episode of Willcox's Wacky Experiments. Penultimate means the episode before the last one. As always, there's going to be a mini experiment and a main experiment. That mini experiment shouldn't need a lot of resources, and the main experiment might need a few more, but it's still really exciting.
Before we do any of these exciting experiments, we need to quickly recap the boring
But crucial
safety points from the last episode. So remember, our safety point number 1 is to always ask permission from any adult at home. Rule number 2 is to make sure that you have lots of space to do your experiments, because you don't want anything going wrong. And number 3, making sure that you follow the instructions in these videos step by step.
So for our mini experiment today, you're going to need a fizzy drink. So you're going to need to go and ask an adult, may I have a fizzy drink? And if the answer to this question is usually no, you need to try a different tactic. May I have a fizzy drink for conducting a science experiment? So the experiment today is called Launch Some Submarines. And you're going to need some sultanas or raisins, whichever you have at home, a large glass, and you're going to need some lemonade or another fizzy drink that is translucent, which means that you can kind of see through it, but not very clearly. Step number 1, you need to get your glass and you need to fill it up 3/4 full with your fizzy drink or your lemonade. Okay, you're going to wait for all those bubbles to settle. Step number 2, you need to get your sultanas or your raisins and take out probably about 5 or 6, because these are going to act as our submarines under the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, step 3, we're going to put each of the sultanas or our submarines into our fizzy drink. And we're going to wait until the bubbles surround each of our submarines, and then we're going to wait for the magic to happen. Our submarines are going to float up and down all by themselves. Are we ready? So they go to the bottom. Oh, one's already started floating. There it goes. Oh, 3, 4, 5. Is that... Oh, and down again. Up and down. And that's our mini experiment for today. If you haven't caused enough mayhem, you might even want to compete with a family member by each dropping in a raisin and see how many times it floats up and down.
What is the science? Fizzy drinks are also called carbonated drinks because they are full of tiny bubbles of gas, carbon dioxide, and as these are less dense than water, they rise to the top. When you drop a raisin or a sultana in, bubbles stick to its surface until there are so many they are able to float. The sultana to the top, where some bubbles burst and the sultana drops down again until more bubbles stick to its surface and the process begins again.
Now it is time for our main experiment, and today you are going to be creating the impossible plane. Usually, planes need to be sleek and aerodynamic to fly properly, don't they? Apparently not. The things you're going to need for this main experiment are a pair of scissors, some tape, a straw, and some paper. Step number 1, we need to make 2 strips of paper. Well, I'm going to use my ruler to be really accurate. So, I'm going to use my long edge of my paper, and I'm going to have a strip that is about 3 centimetres in width. So I'm going to mark it both ends, and I'm going to draw a big long line so I know where to cut. So then I've got my big long strip. I'm going to cut that one out very quickly. or as quick as I can, because I need to be really neat. Okay, I've got my first strip there, nice long one. This time, I'm going to turn my page this way and do the same. So I've got a nice shorter one, still 3 centimeters in width at either end. Again, to make those marks, join them up with the ruler and then cut it out. So now I have 2 strips of paper, one long one, one short one. Step number 2, we need to create 2 circles out of our strips. So I'm going to start with the long one and I'm going to pick it up and then I'm going to turn it into a circle. It's okay to have an overlapping bit because that is where the tape is going to go. So I'm just going to quickly get my tape. Just a tiny little bit like this. Hold it on one finger, make my circular shape with an overlapping part, and then stick down so it's nice and secure. So I've got my first circular shape, this one's going to be the bigger one, and then I'm going to need to do the same with my smaller one. So I'm going to get my piece of tape, hold it on one finger, and then turn it around, make that circular shape. If it overlaps, that's okay. And then stick it down. So now I've got my 2 circular shapes, one big one, one small. Step number 3, we now need to attach our circles onto our straw. This is going to be a very bizarre looking plane, but you will find out that it actually travels further than your traditional plane. Okay, so the big circle is going to go at the back of the straw, that's going to be the back of the plane, and then the smaller one is going to be towards the front. Not right at the front, but just back a little bit so you've got a nose to your plane also. Okay, I need some more tape now. Okay, so I'm going to put the big one to the back of the plane and I'm going to attach it straight to the straw. Oh, I need to make sure it's nice and straight. Okay, so there we go. I've attached the back part of my plane and now I need a bit more tape to attach the front. Remember, make sure you've got a nose to your plane as well. So the second circle needs to go back a little bit like this. Okay, right then. Let me attach that. There we go. And there we have it. We have our impossible plane. Now let's go test it. So step number 4 is to go outside or find a space that you've got lots of room to test the impossible plane. Okay, make sure you hold the middle part and then we're going to throw it and it should travel quite far. Are we ready? Go! Oh, you might need a few goes. Now that I have tested my impossible plane, as a scientist, I've noticed something that I might need to change in my impossible plane. I've noticed that this back hoop is a little bit too flimsy. So the next time I do this experiment, I might want to use some thicker card. That might make my plane a little bit sturdier and then it will go further.
What is the science? The hoop at the back of the impossible plane creates air resistance, also known as drag, and the smaller one at the front prevents the plane from turning, so it stays on course, helping it to fly further.
Thank you for watching episode 4 of Willcox's Wacky Experiments. Don't forget to check out next time for the final episode before the summer holidays.